Baseball, America's beloved pastime. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the scent of hot dogs, and crushed dreams. But what if I told you that some of sport's most jaw-dropping, history-making moments weren't powered by talent alone, but by syringes and sawdust? Yep, today we're throwing down the ultimate showdown: steroids versus corked bats. Two dirty paths to glory, two ways to cheat the game. But which one actually worked better? Which one juiced the stats harder? And which one left fans wondering if anything was ever real? Let's find out. Before we crown a champion of cheating, we must understand exactly what we're dealing with, because contrary to what baseball traditionalists might tell you, there's actually science behind both of these methods: steroids. Anabolic steroids aren't just magic pills that turn skinny guys into hulking monsters. Though the before and after pictures of steroid era might suggest otherwise. They're synthetic versions of testosterone, the hormone that makes men, well, men. When baseball players started injecting this stuff in increasing doses through the 1990s, they were essentially hacking their own biology. These compounds dramatically boost testosterone levels, accelerating muscle recovery, increasing protein synthesis, and allowing for more intense training. The result? Faster bat speed, harder hits, and the ability to train longer and harder without breaking down. It's like turning a man into a Marvel character, minus the CGI budget and moral compass. A player on steroids isn't just stronger on game day, he recovers faster between games. That 162-game season? No longer the war of attrition it was designed to be. While clean players were nursing sore muscles in August, juiced-up sluggers were still fresh as spring training. Studies show steroids can boost muscle mass by 5 to 20% over a few months. And when that muscle is swinging a bat, you're not just hitting balls, you're launching missiles. But the edge wasn't just physical. Dr. Charles Yeselis, steroid expert from Penn State University, once explained it perfectly. These drugs don't just make you stronger, they change your psychological makeup. You become more aggressive, more confident. That's the steroid cheat code. Power, recovery, swagger. All in one syringe. Corked and modified bats. Now, let's talk about the hardware hackers, players who decided to modify their equipment rather than their bodies, also known as corked bats or hollowed-out power sticks. These bad boys were doctored by removing the dense wood from inside the bat and replacing it with lighter materials like cork, rubber, or superballs. The goal? A lighter bat, faster swing, and more pop. It was like switching from a sledgehammer to a regular hammer. You can swing it faster, with more control, while still maintaining much of the impact force. But here's where it gets interesting. Studies by physicists, yes, actual physicists, found that corked bats don't actually increase the distance of a hit. In fact, the reduced mass could result in a weaker contact. So, it's basically cheating for people too scared of needles, with a hefty dose of placebo effect thrown in. Players believed it worked, so in their minds, it did. Baseball, after all, is as much mental as physical. Steroids gave you superpowers, torpedo bats gave you false hope. But cheaters are gonna cheat. So, with steroids offering biological transformation and torpedo bats offering questionable physics, let's meet the players who chose these paths to glory. Every great crime has its notorious practitioners. Let's meet the Hall of Famers in baseball's den of cheaters. First up, the Steroid Kings. No discussion of steroids in baseball starts anywhere but with Barry Lamar Bonds. The man entered the league in 1986 as a Lethe Athletic Pirates outfielder and somehow transformed into a hulking power monster by the early 2000s. His career trajectory looks like someone drawing a mountain on a piece of paper, a steady climb, followed by an impossible spike after age 35, when most players are declining. Bonds finished with 762 home runs, a record that still stands, although with an asterisk the size of AT&T Park. His 2001 season, with 73 home runs, wasn't just impressive, it was biologically suspicious. His head size visibly increased, his body transformed, and his power numbers defied age curves that have existed since baseball's inception. But Bonds was merely the most successful in a lineup of pharmaceutical all-stars. Mark McGwire, the gentle giant who won America's heart by hitting 70 home runs in 1998, later admitted to steroid use throughout that magical season. His forearms were the size of most men's thighs. When asked about a bottle of androstenedione spotted in his locker that year, McGwire awkwardly claimed it was a natural supplement. Technically true, but deliberately misleading. Then there's Jose Canseco, the unofficial mascot of the steroid era. He didn't just use, he snitched. In his tell-all book Juiced, Canseco wrote, "I would never have been a major league caliber player without steroids. They made me a world-class athlete." At least he was honest about his dishonesty. Alex Rodriguez denied it, then cried on national television, only to later admit, "I felt I needed to do something to play at a level that was acceptable to me." He was suspended for an entire season, the longest non-lifetime ban in MLB history. Now, over to the bat buffoons, the ones who trusted cork over chemistry. Sammy Sosa's June 3, 2003 game against the Tampa Bay Devil Rays became infamous when his bat shattered on a routine ground ball, ejecting pieces of cork across the infield like a grade school science experiment gone wrong. The image of umpire Tom McClelland examining the bat fragments remains one of baseball's most iconic moments of shame. His excuse? It was my batting practice bat. Yes, apparently he used illegal bats for practice, not just games. Except for, that one time when millions were watching. He was suspended for 8 games. Then there's Albert Bell, whose corked bat saga reads like a crime caper. In 1994, opposing manager Gene Lamont suspected Bell was using a corked bat and asked umpires to confiscate it for examination. The bat was locked in the umpire's dressing room for safekeeping. Bell's response? He sent his teammate Jason Grimsley through the air vents to steal it back. The only problem? The replacement bat had Paul Sorrento's name on it, not Bell's. If that doesn't scream guilt or desperation, I don't know what does. In 1974, Greg Nettles of the Yankees had perhaps the most spectacular bat malfunction when 6 Super Balls exploded from his shattered bat, bouncing around the infield like a broken toy machine. His response? "I didn't know there was anything in the bat." That's the bat boy's job. One more corked bat scenario was when Wilton Guerrero's bat shattered in 1977, spraying cork across the field. His response? He frantically tried to gather the evidence before umpires could see it, which only made him look more guilty. The methods were different, but the goal was the same: gain an edge, whatever the cost. But what happened when they got caught? Now, let's talk consequences, because when you break the rules, someone's gotta pay. But as we'll see, some forms of baseball crime paid better than others. Steroid punishments. Baseball's steroid reckoning was slow, public, and ultimately devastating for many careers. The sport's greatest stars found themselves sweating under congressional hearing room lights, their reputations disintegrating in real time. The 2005 congressional hearings remain an iconic moment of shame. Mark McGwire repeatedly refusing to talk about the past, Rafael Palmeiro wagging his finger in righteous denial, only to test positive months later. The Hall of Fame became baseball's ultimate jury. Players with clear Hall of Fame statistics, Bonds, Roger, Clemens, McGwire, Sosa, found themselves rejected ballot after ballot. The message was clear: chemical enhancement was an unforgivable sin. Yet, the material consequences varied wildly. Barry Bonds made over $188 million in salary during his career and never served a day of suspension for steroid use, though he was later convicted on obstruction of justice charges related to Balco investigations. Contrast that with more recent offenders like Robinson Cano, who forfeited $24 million during his 2021 suspension, or Jenry Mejia, who received baseball's only lifetime ban for 3 positive PED tests. The enforcement evolved, but the stain remained consistent. Steroids became baseball's scarlet letter, a permanent mark on a player's legacy. Bat mod punishments. Compared to the steroid saga, corked bat punishment seemed almost quaint. The standard discipline? About 8 to 10 games, a fraction of the 80-game minimum for a first-time PED offense. The public outcry? Limited to a news cycle or 2. The Hall of Fame implications? Virtually none. When Sammy Sosa was caught with cork, he served his brief suspension and returned with minimal lasting damage. His Hall of Fame rejection has far more to do with suspected steroid use than his confirmed bat tampering. Albert Bell, despite his elaborate bat-swapping caper, made the All-Star team the very next season. Greg Nettles continued his career without significant repercussions after his Super Bowl incident. As baseball historian John Thorne observed, apparently cheating with wood is less offensive than cheating with drugs. One alters the tool, the other alters the man. Baseball has always been more romantic about its equipment rather than its players. Why? Because the science never backed up the advantage. It was like catching someone with cheat codes that didn't even work. The average steroid suspension cost players 80+ games and millions in salary, while cork violations averaged just 8 games and minimal financial impact. Still, the embarrassment was real. Imagine millions watching your bat explode and seeing SpongeBob foam pop out on live TV. Either way, the cork crowd got off easy compared to steroid users. Numbers tell the story in baseball. Always have, always will. So, what do the stats say about these competing methods of deception? The steroid effect. The most compelling evidence for steroid effectiveness is written across baseball's record books in bold, unnatural spikes. Consider these staggering numbers. In the 1980s, MLB averaged 1 home run per game. By 1998 to 2001, the heart of the steroids era, that number ballooned to 1.7 home runs per game, a 70% increase. The single-season home run record stood at 61 for 37 years, Roger Maris in 1961. Then within 4 years, it was broken 6 times by 3 different players, McGwire twice, Sosa 3 times, and Bonds. Barry Bonds' slugging percentage jumped from a career average of .602 through age 35 to an impossible .809 from ages 36 to 39, years when power typically declined sharply. That era felt like a video game. Fans loved it. Chicks dug the long ball. MLB raked in the cash until they realized, wait, this isn't natural. Sports scientist Dr. Michael Joyner put it succinctly. What we saw in baseball from 1994 to 2004 wasn't just statistical noise, it was biological impossibility made possible through chemistry. The cork effect. The evidence for corked bat effectiveness is considerably less impressive. Think about it. How many home run records do you remember being broken during the Great Cork era? Exactly, there wasn't one. According to a study by physicist Alan Nathan, corking a bat gives no advantage in batted ball speed or distance. In fact, his research showed that while cork bats are 1 to 2 ounces lighter, allowing faster swing speeds at about 3 to 5% faster, the reduced mass decreases the energy transferred to the ball. The cork absorbs energy that would otherwise accelerate the baseball. The actual distance benefit, according to physics, potentially negative, at best a few feet on a perfectly struck ball. In fact, some players' performance dropped after using corked bats. Once suspicion set in, and they had to go back to regulation gear. Sammy Sosa's home run rate before his corking incident was virtually identical to after, 1 homer every 12.7 at-bats versus 1 every 13.1. Greg Nettles actually hit for less power the season of his Super Bowls incident, 433 slugging, than his career average of 442. Albert Bell did show increased power during his suspected corking years, but was also widely believed to be using steroids during the same period. The science, the statistics, and the suspensions all tell the same story. Steroids turned sluggers into legends. Torpedo bats just made them bloopers. Beyond broken records lie broken dreams. But did both forms of cheating damage baseball equally? The steroid legacy. Steroids didn't just shatter records, they shattered trust. Home run records, once the most revered numbers in American sports, now became suspicious. When Aaron Judge hit 62 home runs in 2022, many fans considered it the real record, despite Bond's 73 remaining in the books. The record book was fractured into clean and dirty eras. Fan views about player achievements reached unprecedented levels. Every late career resurgence, every physical transformation became suspect. The game itself changed strategically. Small ball died as teams chased the juiced-up home run. Stolen bases dropped. Strategic nuance gave way to waiting for the 3-run homer. Perhaps most damagingly, baseball's testing and enforcement policies, initially non-existent, then laughably weak, eroded faith in the sport's governance. Legends were dethroned, Hall of Fame votes became morality tests, and a whole generation of baseball fans learned that cheating sometimes works, until it doesn't. The corked bat legacy. By comparison, baseball's relationship with bat tampering feels almost nostalgic, less betrayal than prank. They were scandalous, sure, but they never felt systemic. They were dumb, isolated incidents. The Sammy Sosa cork incident is remembered almost fondly, a comedic mishap rather than a fundamental threat to the game. No one seriously questions baseball's historical record book because of corked bats. No era is defined by equipment tampering. No great players are excluded from Cooperstown specifically for what they put inside their lumber. Steroids were a culture, a whole damn era. You can fix a bat. You can't fix a decade of deceit. Let's be honest, if you're going to cheat, and we're not endorsing this, but if you are, at least cheat like you mean it. Steroids turned mortals into legends. Corked bats just made fools out of desperate players. And here's a question worth debating. Would you rather see a home run record broken by a juiced-up slugger, or watch baseball return to the dead ball era? Drop your pick in the comments, and while you're at it, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more deep dives into the beautiful mess that is sports history. We'll see you next time.